We're in the right place, yes?
Yes.
This is Reno High. Would you introduce yourselves to us and your teacher, please?
Good morning. We are Reno High's Unit 2. My name is Andrew Brooksbank.
My name is Heather Foster. My name is Kate Douglas.
My name is Tate Erickson. Our unit coach is Lieutenant Colonel Scott Marriott, and our teacher is Mr. Richard Clark.
Welcome to all of you. We, of course, are talking about Unit 2. We've chosen question 3. So Unit 2 is how did the framers create the Constitution? Question 3 is what were the major differences between the Federalists and Anti-Federalists? How did the arguments of the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists reflect their points of view regarding natural rights, republicanism, and the powers of the state? And why are the Federalist and Anti-Federalist debates still relevant today? Please begin.
With the momentous decision to ratify the Constitution in the hands of the people, it was, as Brutus called it, the most important question ever proposed to the decision of any people under heaven. The fundamental difference between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists was, on the surface, their support for or opposition to the ratification of the Constitution. However, these differences reflected their contrasting beliefs on the role of government in which it should play in their lives and the lives of their posterity.
Anti-Federalists like Patrick Henry believed a more direct connection between the voting citizenry and the government could exist only if the sovereignty of the state was protected. Seeing the elastic and supremacy clauses as direct infringements on the powers of the states, they adamantly opposed the Constitution. James Madison in Federalist 39 contended this position by insisting that the country ought to be established under the general rather than under local governments. The national government's difficulty in collecting taxes to pay off debt, quelling rebellion, and standardizing the monetary system under the Articles of Confederation convinced the Federalists to support a stronger national government under the Constitution.
A republican form of government provided the protection of the direct democracy that many delegates had apprehensions about. But the disagreements over the duties of elected representatives exposed their differing views on the degree of republicanism that would be best for the country. Throughout history, republics have varied in nature. But as Madison asserted in Federalist 39, we may define a republic to be a government which derives all its powers directly or indirectly from the great body of the people. Federalists believed in the trustee theory of representation, promoted by Sir Edmund Burke, in which representatives would use their best judgment when voting for or against laws. Anti-Federalists, like George Mason, believed that delegates should instead attend with diligence and strict integrity to the interests of their correspondents.
A major concern the Anti-Federalists expressed during the ratification debates was the lack of a federal assurance of natural rights. Questioning the power of central government, Brutus asked, ought not a government vested with such extensive and indefinite authority to have been restricted by a Declaration of Rights? These views and arguments were a reaction to the British Crown's impositions on colonial freedom in instances such as the Quartering and Navigation Acts. Without the Bill of Rights, there was only Article 1, Section 9 providing explicit negative rights.
While the Federalists saw these rights as important, they argued that a strong national government with a system of checks and balances and separations of powers were themselves protections for individual rights. They argued, as Edmund Burke did, that nothing turns out to be so oppressive and unjust as a feeble government. During the Revolutionary War, the nation had accrued debt, but under the Articles of Confederation, Congress had no power to directly collect taxes from the people. This encouraged the Federalists to support Congress's broader taxing powers under Article 1, Section 8.
However, these disagreements were not resolved with the ratification of the Constitution. Instead, they have remained relevant into the 21st century. For example, the implementation of the Department of Education in 1867 granted federal oversight over the education system. The gradual increase of the government's power was, however, resisted with the anti-federalist ideals in the 1996 Republican platform, stating that the federal government has no constitutional authority to be involved in school curriculum.
The enactment of the No Child Left Behind Act was a more federalist-minded law. But today, with the existence of Every Student Succeeds Act, some aspects of education are again left up to the state's jurisdiction. This speaks to the fundamental ideas of American political discourse, forged in debates over the most important question ever posed to a people under heaven.
Thank you for your testimony. I'd
addition must be made to counteract ambition, and this is what we intended to do with the Constitution, making them not solely reliant on civic virtue.
I would argue again that they weren't solely reliant on the civic virtue as expressed in Federalist 68 in the delineation of the Electoral College. The Electoral College was established to create a barrier between mob rule electing the executive branch and having an educated elite understanding the policies of each candidate running for president to take control and thus protect any issues of mob rule when it comes to this.
In Federalist 51, James Madison also argued that there must be ambition counteracting ambition, and therefore they needed checks and balances in the Congress and in the three branches of government, as we can see under Article 1, Section 7, which granted Congress the power to veto the president's proposed law.
It was also very important showing civic virtue for different leaders and the framers to look at the common good, taking various definitions of the common good from people such as Machiavelli. They saw it as the leader being able to show their civic virtue, then allows the citizenry to show their civic values and promote all of their values, which then helps to limit corruption that could exist.
I have a question. Why did the Federalists claim that the Constitution did not need a Bill of Rights? Do you agree or disagree, and why?
In Federalist 84, Alexander Hamilton argued that a Bill of Rights was not in fact necessary
very important as no one faction is then able to take control over the others with their different proposals and ideas.
For example, when we're looking at the political parties in our nation, we see a largely bipartisan Republicans versus Democrats. However, we can also look to minority parties such as the Green Party, Independent Party, or Tea Party, which produce very different and unique ideas, contrasting some of the platform ideas of the two major parties in our nation. And these alternative parties are essential for civil discourse. So regardless of if we agree or disagree with their ideologies, they give a voice to a unique group of people in our nation and allow for civic discourse to continue in an effective way.
Talking about the Bill of Rights. Oh, are we done?
Now, Gary. So, my colleagues, would you like to offer some comments?
Sure. I really enjoyed your testimony. It was very rich. I really appreciated a lot of the quotes, and not just quotes used to use quotes, but quotes and then following up with what they mean and how they applied. I think you did that in your cross-examination too. It was very rich in evidence and examples. And sometimes those get used in ways that you're kind of, oh, well, you're just saying that quote to say that quote, but you guys did it in such a way that you knew how to apply it and how to follow it up with some critical thinking, and I really appreciated that. Back in your testimony, I really felt like I was back in history because you brought in so many different players, and I felt like I was there, kind of recreating some of the debates that they had there, and that really set the scene or the setting for the whole discussion. So I really liked that as well. Just to give you one piece of feedback, maybe would be thinking about factions today. I'm not necessarily buying that they cancel each other out because there's so many of them, so I would just look into that a little bit more, but really good job, you guys.
I think you guys all did a great job. I'm very proud of you. You should be proud of yourselves. I really like the way you use specific examples from the Constitution and from the Federalist Papers. I thought that was excellent, and I would encourage all of you to stay involved in studying the Constitution and in your individual roles as a citizen.
So, moms, dads, teachers, and even coaches, you should be rightly proud. This is a great example, to my eye, of a well-balanced, detailed, evidence-rich presentation, both in the written testimony and in the cross-examination. Really, just great work, you guys. Really, you should be rightly proud. Whatever the results are at the end of the day, I suspect this is going to be one of the better presentations I hear today, and you should be proud of that. You always get extra credit for me emotionally, not literally, when you make the 9 to 10 amendments relevant. So good job. And I enjoyed your conversation about factions as well. I don't buy that they canceled each other out. You can always bring in details from the most recent election, people's ideas that a particular faction helped Trump or didn't help Trump as an example. But that's adding